name is Rachel Lazar of Third Way. 4 years ago, we had an idea that we could take the most divisive political debate in the country and find shared values and a concrete path forward. We sat down with Congressman Tim Ryan and Congresswoman Ryan-DeLauro, who had the same idea. We broke bread with evangelical church leaders, whom we'd never spoken with before. We huddled with pro-choice women and men, secular and religious. Where's Nancy Keenan? Okay. Why don't you stand up here, please? And Lori, please, come on up. We communed with Catholic leaders and leaders of other denominations. We reached out to our new president and his staff. We planted seeds of trust and good faith. We said we would always find ways to reason together rather than to argue with each other. We insisted that no one compromise their core values. Now we are here to announce a great achievement. Standing on this stage are people who have never stood together before on the issue of abortion. Pro-choice and pro-life, hand in hand, we are coming together behind the shared goals of reducing the need for abortion, preventing unintended pregnancies, and supporting pregnant women and families. And we have a comprehensive 87-page, well-scrubbed bill that puts the words of common ground to the test of deeds. This bill is proof of a historic shift. Although heartfelt views about the right to an abortion in this country will continue to differ, the tone of the debate is shifting. There are new conversations and new avenues for progress, such as this bill. It is my honor and pleasure to introduce the authors of this legislation, two courageous and visionary members of Congress, two of our heroes, Tim Ryan of Ohio and Ryan-DeLauro of Connecticut. Congressman Ryan will speak first.
Thank you. I would not be standing here, nor would anyone else, if it wasn't for the leadership of Third Way, and I think they are really one of the premier organizations in Washington, D.C., and I would like to thank Rachel personally, Jim Kessler, who is here, as well as Nikki Yamashiro, who is here. So can we give them a round of applause? They helped us climb Mount Everest here, and we appreciate that. I would also like to extend my thanks to Donna Crane from NARAL, who has been a real leader in this issue, willing to step out and lead. Also, Cecile Richards from Planned Parenthood, represented today by Lori Rubiner, who is here. So thank you very much to Planned Parenthood as well. Reverend Jim Wallace, who is not here today. He couldn't make it, but he has been an instrumental part of making this happen, as well as Pastor Joel Hunter, who you'll hear from a little bit later. I would also like to thank, from the bottom of my heart, to my legislative director, Ryan Keating, who is here, who did all this heavy lifting. So give him a round of applause. Let me just say briefly, this is an idea whose time has come. And we have had a lot of arguments, and as Rachel said, a lot of those will continue. But we feel like you get into public life, Rosa and I and Tom and Congressman Meek, you get into public life to solve problems. And you don't get batted around by every whim that someone may be upset. And what happened with this piece of legislation is we are solving a major problem, a divisive issue in our country. And everyone who's standing up here has provided leadership in their own way. In their own way. And that's how you get things done in Washington, D.C. And the most exciting part about this for me is that I believe that this is such a divisive issue that when we agree and find common ground on the abortion issue, that there is no issue under this dome that we can't solve together if we're all willing to lead. And we're all willing to compromise, and we're all willing to take the best deal that we can get and move the ball down the field. And we have done that on this issue. This is historic. I can't thank all of our partners up here enough for helping us solve a major, major problem and a major, major fight. So thank you to everyone who is up here. We appreciate your leadership. This is what the American people demand of all of us, whether we're nonprofits, pastors, or members of Congress. This is what they demand, and I feel that today we have met their level of expectation. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here today. There really is a lot of emotion engaged in what we're doing here today, and why we have all come together. People from different parts of the country, people from different philosophical perspectives, religious, secular. It doesn't make any difference. There was a sense that we had to move forward. And that is what we have been able to do with the help of so many good people. I thank my colleagues for being here today, to Tom and to Kendrick and those who were with us several years ago who signed up for this effort as well. And particularly, I want to say a thank you to a dear friend. You know, you make a lot of acquaintances when you come to the House of Representatives. You make few friends. Tim Ryan is a friend. I want to thank him for demonstrating such courage, such leadership. His successful efforts to forge a consensus on such a difficult issue have consistently shown him to be someone of conviction, someone of tenacity, and someone of vision. And it has really been a pleasure to work with him. I want to acknowledge as well the work of the Third Way. Rachel Lazar, Jim, Nikki, all of you who sat day in and day out as we went back and forth to try to forge this consensus. To the groups and the organizations who are represented here today, we would not be here without you. We could not have gotten this far without your commitment to this effort, and we are grateful, not for ourselves, but for what this means for the country, what this means for families around the country. And we come together today to really acknowledge the work and the results of so many months and years of work. And above all else, the Preventing Unintended Pregnancies, Reducing the Need for Abortion, and Supporting Parents Act is legislation that reflects real and principled consensus. For too long, we've allowed differences to divide us on this contentious issue. And, you know, as my record indicates, I've been, and I always will be, a strong believer in a woman's fundamental right to choose. This is a belief I share with so many, a majority of the American people who still support Roe v. Wade and who oppose making it harder for women to get an abortion. Many of my colleagues, including Congressman Ryan, have been equally passionate and committed to an opposing view. For all of us on all sides of this issue, this is not a decision that we take lightly. It is a morally complex matter of conscience that goes to our most fundamental principles. And that's why the bill is so important. It aims to break a stalemate that has impeded forward progress on reducing the need for abortion in this country. It aims to broker, if you will, a détente, turn down the volume on the culture wars that have plagued our attempts to prevent unplanned pregnancies in the past. It emphasizes not the 10% of the issue where we continue to differ, but the 90% where we all agree. And we all want to provide supports for new parents to strengthen their families, to make a hard life, for them to be able to make hard life decisions unconstrained by financial necessity. This is strong and it's comprehensive public policy. It is supported by groups on all sides of the abortion issue. NARAL, Planned Parenthood, the National Women's Law Center, Catholics for Choice, Sojourners, Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good, just to name a few. This is because despite legitimate differences, there is so much that we do agree on. We all want to see fewer unintended pregnancies and abortions, and each year Approximately half of all pregnancies are unintended, and about half of those end in abortions. Approximately 750,000 teenagers become pregnant every year, and 88% of births to females aged 15 to 17 are the result of unintended pregnancies. We need to take action, and starting today with new initiatives found in this legislation, from new programs to prevent teen pregnancy, to improved access to prenatal care, to providing home visits for first-time mothers, we are moving forward. And among its highlights on the prevention side are increased funding for Title X of the Public Health Service Act. The bill restores the Medicaid entitlement to coverage of family planning services. That was repealed. It provides grants to states to reduce teen pregnancy. But to reduce the number of unwanted pregnancies, we must also foster an environment that encourages pregnancies to be carried to term. To improve access to children's health care and to child care. The bill would increase and expand the adoption tax credit for all children. It would expand postpartum coverage from 60 days to 1 year for women whose labor and delivery are covered by Medicare and the CHIP program. And in providing a comprehensive approach to the issue, from increased funding for child care assistance to after-school programs to nutritional support, through food stamps, the bill promotes real parental responsibility once a child is born. And it does so by reducing the economic pressures that can sometimes cause a woman to decide not to carry a pregnancy to term. But all of the important goals this bill can help us reach, perhaps the most important is that it helps us all move forward on the issue beyond the question of legality and toward actually reducing the need for abortion in this nation. With this bill, we offer policy solutions that will reduce unplanned pregnancies, support parents beyond the birth of their new child. We are affirming both our principles as Democrats and our commitment to promoting life. And I am happy to say that our calls for a new approach to this issue have been joined. I'm happy that the new administration, has adopted a similar framework in tackling the question. President Obama, while remaining steadfastly pro-choice, has continually emphasized his desire to bridge the abortion divide and to find common ground. This bill is an excellent step in that direction. I want to again thank my colleagues. I want to thank the organizations. I want to just say, sometimes you say that people can't come to consensus. But caring people, reasonable people, committed people from all sides of an issue can come together. They can make a difference. And after all, as my colleague Tim Ryan said, that's why we come to this institution. Not for self-aggrandizement, not for resources and remuneration, for what it is that we can do to promote good public policy that has the ability to make a difference in people's lives. And I once again want to say to Congressman Ryan, I thank you, buddy. It is unbelievable working with you, and I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congressman Perriello, would you like to come up next?
Thank you very much. I come from a generation that is sometimes known as the community service generation because we volunteered in record numbers. It's a generation that's always tried to put results ahead of rhetoric and really feel that what our moral obligation more than anything else was to produce results. And I think for many of us in this debate, when I was on the outside of politics until recently, asked the question, why on earth can't people get together on something like this? Friends of mine in the pro-life and the pro-choice communities would always say, can't we agree on this issue? Why can't those folks up in Washington come together at least on this, while other debates are playing out in the courts and elsewhere? And I think for us it was a frustration because the labels pro-life and pro-choice often seem to be the excuse to end a conversation rather than to begin one. And each side feeling like as long as that label was there, you had done your part. Rather than asking the question, what does it mean to promote a culture of life? What does it mean to promote real choices? And I think here we do have serious common ground. I don't think this is a panacea that will make other debates go away. I don't think it will end the culture war. But it will show that we can find common ground and build from there. When we start from the question of what do we share, where can we build from those values? And I also think we come from a generation that understands government is not the solution to all of our problems. There are many great things in this bill, But I think many in my generation are also frustrated with what we see as a culture of instant gratification, from our teenagers to our corporate CEOs, and I want it for me right now attitude. So this conversation isn't just about what we legislate. It's about what we teach in our faith communities, in our nonprofits, and in our families. And I think what this can be is a renaissance of a new conversation about culture and about where we are with our values. What is it that the government is willing to do to show that it will promote life, promote family, promote the kinds of options that we have in this bill? But it's also about saying to each of us, what is our part? Whichever side of this divide you rest on. What are you willing to do beyond just putting a label on your lapel to promote the very values that are at their core? How willing are you to sit with someone who you thought you disagreed with and try to find common ground? Because I think when we move beyond those labels to results, it's tough. It's much easier to stand behind those barriers. But to come together at the table to try to say, it is a moral obligation for me if I have an opportunity to prevent an unintended pregnancy, to prevent an abortion from happening, I have an obligation to be involved in that conversation. So I'm very excited with this in and of itself, but also as a signal that I think we are seeing seeds of hope, that there is a results-oriented approach to politics that can bridge some of these divides and start to move us forward and ask, what did you accomplish? Not, what headline did you snag? So I think as we move beyond that, it's a very exciting time for us. And I think the leaders you've already heard mentioned, certainly Congresswoman DeLauro and Congressman Ryan, deserve an unbelievable amount of credit for the courage they've shown in taking a lot of heat from both of their flanks and putting this together. And similarly, the faith leaders who you'll hear from shortly, I think have shown tremendous moral courage in being willing to have this conversation, even when many didn't want to have it. So I think that people want and expect from us results. They expect progress, and they expect for us to lead from our deepest values. I think this is a great example of that, and I'm proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Congressman Kendrick
Thank you so very much, and I'm going to be very, very brief because I know that we have a number of people who have been a part of this great day arriving. I just want to say very quickly, one great theologian said that spirit makes religion act right, and I would add it also makes politics act right. And I think that it's very, very important, the leadership that you see that is assembled here, not only the policymakers, but also what we call stakeholders that are here today. It took leadership to bring about this great piece of legislation that I'm glad to be a part of. It's going to take leadership outside of this room within the institutions and organizations that came together to put the words in this act to reduce abortions in the United States of America. And it's going to take continued leadership to explain to not only members on the floor why they should sign on to this legislation, but it's also going to take leadership within the organizations, within religious institutions, to be able to make this a reality. I am here today because my close colleagues that I've worked with over the last 7 years have really shown an unprecedented amount of leadership in stepping out and saying that we're willing to stand on common ground for the common good for that woman, and I must add that man, who has to make a decision and try to prevent them from having to make that decision when they're not ready to make that decision. So I am glad to be here in support of the legislation. I look forward to working with all of you and pushing it forward to its passage. And this is a day under the Capitol dome that makes us all proud that we live in this democracy to allow us to come together and hold common interests and move forward. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Keenan, President of NARAL, Pro-Choice America.
Thanks, Rachel, and let me first thank all of my colleagues here today, and particular thanks to Congresswoman DeLauro and Representative Ryan, Congressman Ryan. It indeed has been 4 long years of hard work, but 4 long years of determination and leadership. And I think that's what the American people have called for consistently. We're here in support of the Ryan-DeLauro bill as a welcome and constructive addition to the call for common ground. I think all of us know that Americans want a future with a constructive and thoughtful debate over reproductive rights. where lawmakers on both sides of the issue can unify behind common sense measures to improve women's reproductive health care options. Americans want solutions, not rhetoric. Representatives Ryan and DeLauro, I think, have demonstrated through their leadership how reaching across the divide to find common ground solutions to prevent unintended pregnancies is possible. This bill includes a number of positive proposals to improve women's access to contraception and to support teen pregnancy prevention efforts. And NARAL Pro-Choice America supports the bill's aim to ensure that women who choose to carry their pregnancies to term are given the options and the resources necessary to guarantee a healthy pregnancy. This approach contrasts, quite honestly, with the divisive attacks we often see and the inflammatory rhetoric we see too many lawmakers and organizations make and refuse even to support the common sense issues around birth control. So my heartfelt thanks again to Congresswoman DeLauro and Congressman Ryan for first-year leadership, for your courage, and the bottom line, the difference that this bill will make in the lives of American women and their families in this country, and we thank you.
Reverend Joel Hunter.
Thanks, Nancy. I so much respect and appreciate NARAL and Planned Parenthood for being here. I know that they are taking heat from some of the more ideologically inclined part of their movement, as we are. And so I just really appreciate your leadership. I'm here not only to endorse this bill, but to challenge all well-meaning pro-life people to support this bill and all that it represents in order to make a measurable difference in the challenge and the tragedy of abortion in our nation. First of all, this bill is comprehensive enough to serve a wide spectrum of women in varying consequences and need. And so because of its comprehension, it's so much more desirable and effective. Second, it links together traditional adversaries in a way that advances each of our goals without compromising any of our values. Third, it will and is building relationships that we need for the future. This is a moment in time. But as we go into the future, what will really solve problems will come out of the relationships we build and the trust we have as people. And so that's part of the wonderful byproduct of this bill and this effort. And it is a prototype, I believe, and this is why it's a landmark bill. It's a prototype for other areas in which combative approaches or closed communities have delayed practical solutions. And I think Congressman Ryan says that if we can make progress on abortion, we can make progress on practically anything. And in so many areas, both national and international, we have become closed ranks. And we have decided to yell rather than to cooperate toward the benefit of everyone. And so it's my honor just to stand with these people and to continue to call my own community, my end of the faith spectrum, into action. And I believe that you will see unprecedented numbers of evangelicals and pro-life people more and more come to the place where we want to make everyone's life better. So thanks for the privilege.
Reverend Carlton Vesey, the President and CEO of the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice.
I want to first thank Congressman Ryan and DeLauro, and also Congressman Torello and my friend Congressman Meeks for making this day possible. I had a chance to meet with Joel and Hunter before this meeting. I never thought we'd be in the same room, but it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling because we can find something to share, and that's the whole crux of the matter. But I want to say that on behalf of the Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice, which represents 40 denominations and religious organizations and mainline religious traditions in our country, representing over 20 million people, I am here today to say on behalf of the coalition that we are pleased to support the Preventing Unintended Pregnancy, Reducing the Need for Abortion, and Supporting Parents Act. Again, I applaud Representative DeLauro and Ryan on their tireless efforts to develop legislation to expand access to reproductive health services and enhance life options for women. This Act supports for family planning services will allow an increased number of low-income and uninsured women to determine when or whether to have children according to their own conscience and religious beliefs. The Act's provision for comprehensive sex education reflects the views of major faith traditions and their commitment to empowering young people with the knowledge to make responsible decisions. And may I just say thank you, Sarah Brown, for work you've done, and also acknowledge John O'Brien, who is also the other part of our religious tradition. He represents Catholic for Choice. These faith communities take seriously their duty to instill a set of religious and moral values that will help guide young people to responsible life choices. They believe that it is the role of government to ensure that the nation's youth receive the facts unblemished by ideology that will protect them from disease and unintended pregnancy. Being of faith means being engaged in the world. And like it or not, the facts are clear. 95% of Americans have sex before marriage. 80% of teen pregnancies are unintended each year. 25% of American teens contract the STD. And may I say, in my community, the black community, that's closer to 50%. So we have a special reason for supporting this bill. For that to happen, they must be informed by comprehensive sex education and have access to contraceptive services. Offering them anything less is irresponsible, dangerous, and wrong. Our hope is that these provisions will help eliminate the terrible disparity in access to reproductive health services that results in poor women being 4 times as likely to have unintended pregnancies as their higher income counterparts. Access to reproductive health information and services allow women to continue their education, thereby improving their economic status and the well-being of their families and communities. U.S. religious denominations and an overwhelming majority of people support the use of contraception and believe it is a moral and responsible path to follow. The Act also provides much-needed resources to help ensure the woman a healthy pregnancy and provides additional support that will make it possible for women to choose to continue their pregnancy to care for their children. The Religious Coalition for Reproductive Choice and our members will continue to work hard to provide women the information they need to respond to the unintended pregnancies in a manner consistent with their values and life goals. We are grateful again to Congressman, for the Representative DeLauro and Ryan for their work. May I just say that each year we have what's called the National Black Religious Summit on Sexuality at Howard Divinity School. This is our 13th year, and we have now been into over 25 states. We have served over 10,000 young people, 800 churches, and we will continue to do this because this bill will allow us to broaden our reach and also help us to reach young people that we have never reached before. And may I say to all of you that this day required a little time, but again, I want to thank Rachel Laser for her work because she came to see me over 2 years ago, and I was a great deal far from where I am today. But she insisted and persisted, and I want to thank her for making this possible. And now I want to present my distinguished friend, Reverend Dr. Hawkins. Thank you.
I also want to add my deep appreciation to Congresswoman DeLauro and Congressman Ryan for their work, for their tireless efforts. And it is a wonderful thing to arrive at this day. I suppose some would say faith has become sight or at least legislation. So let me begin by saying that I'm more optimistic now than I ever have been about our potential to overcome polarization, to build common ground on shared principles, and to enact policies that make a tangible and a real difference in the lives of women, children, and families, and to reduce the need for abortion in America. The Preventing Unintended Pregnancies, Reducing the Need for Abortion, and Supporting Parents Act advances all of these goals, and I, as an American citizen, as a pastor, wholeheartedly support it. And as a pastor, I see clearly that this bill brings, most importantly, compassion and concrete solutions to an issue where there's largely been polarizing rhetoric. The women I have known who have faced the tremendous challenges presented by unintended pregnancies need real support that divisive debates cannot provide. And I know, as one who would probably be typified as a clear pro-life advocate, that label serves no purpose if it divides, if it polarizes. And I know, therefore, that the people in my congregation who follow the same Lord but find themselves on different sides of the abortion debate need common ground, and not, again, a polarized debate that casts them into opposite camps. And I'm particularly pleased that there are statements of endorsement that have come from a broad spectrum. Who would have imagined the broad spectrum of faith community leaders who have said that they support this effort, they see the value of it, and they see the worth of it. The truly significant aspect of this legislation, I think, is that it builds on these shared commitments, and it also allows for those persons who have stands of conscience and commitment to maintain them and to continue to work toward their efforts. Let me also say that I'm pleased that the provisions of this bill address challenges that exist within segments of the African American community. The need for comprehensive sex education, as well as maternity and child care, which are critical in preventing the downward spiral of poverty that so often accompanies teen pregnancies. And I wouldn't be a preacher worth my salt if I didn't close with a story. But it's a personal one, and it's a real one. When living in Dallas a few years ago, while my wife and I were expecting our first child, we stopped at a local fast food restaurant after a long Sunday of worship and services, and we were about a month away from our due date. Throughout the entire pregnancy, my wife had received the best of prenatal care, and our daughter would be delivered by one of Dallas's leading OBGYNs. She would be born into an intact nuclear family with a wide network of support from our extended family and our church community. Standing directly next to my wife in the adjacent line was another mother-to-be who looked to be at the same point in her pregnancy. She also appeared to be no more than about 14 years old. There was no one standing with her, and it appeared that every coin she put on the counter to pay for her meager meal mattered deeply to her. It struck us that her story was no doubt in many ways the very opposite of my wife's and mine. And we could only imagine how different her life and the life of her child would ultimately be from ours. Would pregnancy prevention initiatives have been of benefit to her? Most likely, yes. But if not that, would maternity and child care now be essential? Absolutely. The provisions of the Ryan-DeLauro bill will address the very challenges faced by that young girl and so many like her. And because of that, I wholeheartedly support it. Thank you.
Lori Rubiner, Vice President for Policy at Planned Parenthood Federation of America. Thanks, Lori.
Thanks, Rachel. So we are so pleased to be here. I want to thank our old friends, Congresswoman DeLauro and her staff, Letty, who's been tremendous to us, and our old friend, Ren Vervisi, and our new friends, Congressman Tim Ryan, his staff, Ryan, and our new friends here, I'm sorry, you're not a congressman yet, but Pastor Hunter, Pastor Harkins. I want to also pay tremendous tribute to Rachel Lazar, who's a longtime friend, and all the work that she and her organization have done to bring us together. This is really a great day. You know, Planned Parenthood, much to everybody's surprise, we're not just an abortion provider. Actually, 97% of the services that we provide are primary and preventive care to mostly low-income women around the country. And so this bill couldn't come at a better time. We are so pleased that after 8 years of really only being able to defend against restrictions on abortion, that we have an opportunity to talk about the issues that really matter to us and to the American people, which is really getting comprehensive, affordable health care and birth control to low-income women around the country. And I really want to just pay tribute to this group of people and this group of people for making that possible. This is the start of that conversation. This is not the end, and we really look forward to being your partner in making that happen. So thank you very much.
To close, I wish I could hand out badges of courage, because only if you'd been in these discussions with us all could you understand just how challenging and emotional this could be. We wouldn't be here today but for their steady help. Representatives Ryan-DeLauro, Perriello, Meeks, Reverend Joel Hunter, Carlton Vesey, and Derek Harkins, Lori with Planned Parenthood, NARAL. We wouldn't be standing here. They've all earned their badges and their speaking roles today. Let me acknowledge some other leaders, though, who were also very, very important in this process. Reverend Jim Wallace, who Congressman Ryan referenced, president of Sojourners, who was unable to make the press conference today, is a longtime and outspoken pro-life champion of this bill. Jim describes the bill as, quote, a wise piece of legislation that offers creative solutions for real action. The national campaign to prevent teen and unplanned pregnancy. You guys were here with us from the very beginning, designing the very creative policy solutions that Jim Wallace describes. The pro-life organization Catholics in Alliance for the Common Good sent Sister Sharon Dillon to speak at our first press conference and has continued to courageously support the bill and its approach. Catholics for Choice gets another medal. They have been unwavering in their support for this bill's goals. And I'd also like to acknowledge Frances Kissling, their former leader. She gets another badge. I'd like to give a special badge to the group Faith in Public Life, who've worked tirelessly and effectively to educate pro-life and pro-choice religious leaders around the country about the bill. Their work has been instrumental in helping us secure over 20 leaders and organizations on both the pro-life and pro-choice sides. And it's also worth mentioning that over a quarter of the members of the President's Faith Council are already supporting this bill. There are countless other individuals and organizations, pro-life and pro-choice, secular and religious, to thank. Bill Smith is here with SECUS, David Saperstein with the RACs, David Gushy, Sam Rodriguez. The list is so long. I'm sorry I cannot name you all, that we cannot name you all. You all are on the statements of support on the table out there, and we so appreciate all of your work. And finally, for these people, I'm not sure whether to give out badges of honor or wounded soldier medals. Ryan Keating with Congressman Ryan, Letty Medeiros, and all of your hard work with Congresswoman DeLauro.
Thank you.
Letty, Nikki Yamashiro with Third Way. You guys are the three legs of this stool. And of course, my partner Jim Kessler in all this. Thank you to everyone here for sharing in the making of history.